Here we go, guys. This is Luca Zanna, final hour, final part. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on K-Talks 1340 AM and also on United States.fm network. This has been a very interesting, strange last hour. This hour about love. Normally, I told you, we talk about different things. Today, it's about, love for our freedom more than everything. And also to face the reality that we are under attack. This is my humble opinion. That's fine. You may believe or not. That's not the point. But I know that there are a lot of people out there that they're trying to do what they think is right, to stand up for this country, to stand up for the next generation. This show is broadcasted in this part of Arizona, and of course we reach also part of California and the Nevada area with Laughlin. But it is becoming more and more a show that I'm so excited. I have no idea. Even people in Scotland, I'm receiving people from Scotland, and give me a lot of hope, because the struggle that we are facing as humanity, it is not just an American struggle or a local struggle. Every state, every county, every city, everybody, everywhere around the world, I think we are facing the same type of global tyranny. And in this way, also we know that in my humble research, they've been using certain group of religious, these globalists, to try to conquer the rest of the Western world. If people think I'm too extreme, or maybe I'm kind of a conspiracy, that's fine. But I read books. I know about the C.A.I.R plan, started in Europe 1920s, the destruction of European sovereignty, and of course American sovereignty. It is not just about political sovereignty, it's also about cultural sovereignty. And it's happening. It's happening right now. So I said, I'm open to every religion. I welcome every religion, but I have a big problem with there is a religious group that, according to their book, they have a goal to completely dominate us or convert us with force. That's a big problem. That's why my duty here as a new American is try to at least talk about these topics and not being afraid. I have with me today the honor to have a great guy. I don't know him in person, but I've been following him. I know that is one of us when it comes down to defending this republic and defending our individual rights. We need to have more politicians. I don't even want to call him politician because it's a bad word. It's a statement. It's the House of Representative Republican in Washington State for the Spokane area. And his name is Matt Shea. Matt, are you there?
I am here. Thanks for having me on, Luke. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I want to go straight to point. You are in Washington State. Washington State, I read in the news, especially in I think in the Spokane area, there was a very interesting event when it came down to the celebration or the recognition of a specific group, religious group or cultural group or civil rights group or whatever you want to call it. It's called C.A.I.R. Tell us a little bit more exactly what happened, when happened, and why it's so important that we talk about this.
Well, I think first I need to start by saying that, here in Spokane Valley, which we affectionately call the capital of free Washington, we have a different point of view than Seattle does. And so the state is kind of split down the middle. And I think we have to be unafraid to talk about these types of issues, and particularly about the history of Islam and what is going on in the world with Islamic and terrorists and Islamo-fascists, I like to call them. So what happened here in Spokane City was, and this is not Spokane Valley, there's two separate cities. In Spokane City, the city council decided to try and give them a commendation during a city council meeting, the Council of American Islamic Relations, otherwise known as C.A.I.R. And there was a huge protest outside in regards to them receiving any sort of public recognition. And the reason is because during the Holy Land Foundation trial in 2008, a federal district court judge ruled that C.A.I.R was an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation trial. In very simple terms, they were a member of the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States of America, and that was found in a court of law.
Wow.
And in addition to that, there was the North American Islamic Trust, or NATE, that was also found to be a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a known terrorist organization. And NATE actually owns the mosque in Spokane Valley, Washington. So many of the citizens were very concerned with the terror ties that are very demonstrable. Again, these were in a court of law. There is no speculation on this. This is not just a matter of opinion. These were found in a court of law, so it's irrefutable, and yet the city of Spokane wanted to acknowledge them and award them a commendation for their work in the community, which I have to say was just one of the most stunning things I've seen in a long time around here.
Yeah. You know why it's so important? You know, I already talked before. I have another guest before you, and we'll be talking about this because the problem is one. You know, people may ignore reality or not. That's fine, but we will not be able to ignore the consequences of this reality. We are facing here a reality that, according to their beliefs, according to the Holy Book, how they want to call it, excuse me, is a big incompatibility with our Bill of Rights and Constitution, you know, and that's the bottom line. If you're a good, loyal Muslim, you're not going to be a good American. You're not going to be able to respect each other because this is supposed to be basing our interaction as Americans, as human beings, to respecting each other's differences. There is no way that you can respect each other if you are somebody that's telling you, according to your book, that his duty is to kill you or to convert you or to make you pay a tax if you do not convert. So that's a big problem. That's why we must talk about this more than ever. And more important is, now you're saying that the city council of a town, okay, American town, takes the effort, the time, and also the tax dollar to start to recognize, after all, they want to call it a civil rights group, but for me it's also about religious entity because they advocate a religion. Did they ever done anything like, I don't know, recognizing, I don't know, I'm not a Catholic, but let's say, for example, a Catholic group of the volunteers for Catholic religion, or maybe a bunch of Buddhists, this is the first time they do something specifically just about Muslim, or they've done also to other religions the same type of royal treatment?
I will tell you that I don't know of anything in the last 5 years where they have done that. That's not to say they may have not done that sometime that I don't know about, but I don't know of any time where they have recognized another clearly associated religious group like CAIR. And I would say very clearly on this point that they knew ahead of time that CAIR had those terrorist ties, that wasn't a court of law. So it's not like they flew in there ignorant.
Yeah.
And I would also say, too, that, I mean, my goodness, the FBI had to break off relations with CAIR because of those same terrorist ties in 2007. And yet, after this protest that we had in front of the city council meeting, after this protest, our own sheriff sat down with the CAIR leadership, and I was just kind of stunned to find that he had sat down, and I think it might have been a week prior, but either way, he knew. He sits down with the CAIR leadership, and 2 weeks prior to that, actually came out with an article where he compared constitutionalists to ISIS and said that constitutionalists were a greater threat to America than ISIS. And it was just stunning, this kind of reversal and this complete ignorance of the truth.
I know, but this is not ignorance. I think it's part of the agenda. This is sort of putting fear into us, so people don't want to get involved anymore. That's why I'm saying, people say, why are you keep bashing today? I'm not even bashing, I'm bringing facts, talking about this topic, because exactly what they want us to do is the opposite. They want us to be silent and be politically correctness frozen, you know, and that's the point. There is a plan here, is to destroy this country, in my humble opinion. You know, I wasn't born here, I came here just 17 years ago, but I can see what happened already in Europe. Is this the next country they wanted to make it happen? The destruction of the fiber, cultural, and of course economic and sovereignty. And of course at this point they need to use like the useful idiots. In this case, for me, the useful idiots, the foot soldiers, it's a group, a religious group that is being used and manipulated to destroy what is left of the identity of this country. And that's what's happening. And I'm sad that the sheriff, that's supposed to be also elected by the people, he doesn't understand the basics, or maybe he does, and he's just afraid to speak up, or who knows, maybe he's bought out. Question is, according to your humble opinion, this is, of course, is your opinion, why do you think this city council took the effort to go out and do this official ceremony that really for me makes no sense, celebrating CAIR? What is the reason? Politically correctness, number one, maybe paid off, or they're just a bunch of imbeciles? And this is me, Luca Zanna, talking.
Well, so I think it was political correctness, and I think also that you hit on the issue. There is an intentional march toward destroying this country. And I've seen it in everything from leadership in Washington, D.C., to all the way down at the local level. There are people intent on destroying this country and intent on creating division, intent on fomenting unrest, and like you said, scaring people. And I think that, you can't look at it any other way. I mean, these people are not stupid. Many of them were, Yale and Harvard graduates at the national level, or these local prestigious colleges here in Washington State. They graduated from these places. These are not dumb people.
No.
They know what the truth is, and yet they're doing exactly the opposite of what the truth is. And that to me means that what they're doing is intentional, and I think we have to look at it this way. So when I see this commendation of CAIR come out, I think not only is it political correctness, I think this is part of their intentional agenda to really turn good into evil and evil into good, and try to turn things upside down.
Yeah, and this is part of a bigger plan. We are looking at this as an angle, as a cultural and also religion and also social, because unfortunately the religion, it doesn't stay just in the churches. That's the problem. That's why I want to talk about this. This is not just like, okay, the Catholics said that on Friday you need to eat fish. Okay, whatever, who cares? I'm going to eat what I want on Friday. Nobody's going to come to my home and chop my head or put me in front of, beat me up. The problem here is the religion is a theocracy, and they want to have the same type principles that they have in their religious moral life, also in our social life. And if you believe out there, listeners, that this is not going to happen, I tell you already, it's happening in Europe. It's happening in many parts of Europe, that when these people, they get into power, and that's why it's so dangerous, CAIR, in my humble opinion, that they're going to start to get elected, get enough numbers. After all, we've been brainwashed by all presidents the last 20 years at least, that we are a democracy, and we are not a democracy, you know that, but they want to tell us that we are a democracy. So 51% of the idiots out there can be able to elect evil people out there, that they can decide how we live, how we die, what we eat, how we pray, and everything else. So this is part of the plan,
You're exactly right. You're absolutely right. A republic, which we live in, is based on the rule of law, and that's why Islam, which I go a step further, I call it a theopolitical construct, because it's not just a religion, it's an entire governmental system, an entire court system. I mean, it covers an entire war system. It covers
to then spending more billions of dollars to defeat them, and more importantly, using them as puppets for their geopolitical agenda. And you know very well that now it's no more some sort of in the conspiracy book. ISIS-Obama connection is real, okay? The funding and the connection. And we can see just the last few days, Russia, he had, in 3 days, he didn't need too much effort. I mean, they were able to almost put very deadly blows to ISIS. And Obama said that we supposed to have this war long time. The point is now that he's micromanaging the war. Every time they need to drop a bomb, they need to ask him permission, and he shows that when the Egyptian government was trying to bomb ISIS, Obama went out there as public media news that he was reprimanding them. So the conspiracy is over. This is, for me, as an act of treason, the way I see at this, okay? We have, at the same time, this bastard, and this is Luca Zanna talking, not Shea, the politician, please. I want to be sure the media understand the difference. I'm responsible for my own words. This bastard and the White House acting as a president, meanwhile that he's trying to disarm us, using as a crisis at the school, like, for example, in Oregon, is giving weapons to more of these supposed to be freedom fighters in Syria. You think I'm too extreme, Matt? Am I out of control, or am I too something here? What do you think?
Well, I've had people ask me. They'll say, "Matt Shea, what do you know about Islam?" And I'll say, "Well, I served in Iraq, and I served in Bosnia in the military. I was literally in the cavalry as a platoon leader. I was in the infantry as a company commander, literally on the front lines." In both of those places, and I thought it was good to do the research and understand the culture in which I was going into to fight. And the bottom line is that Islam cannot be compatible with the Constitution of the United States. You literally can't pledge allegiance to the Constitution and also pledge allegiance to Allah. You got to pick one or the other. And I think Ben Carson on that was right. Now, to your point of what you said about ISIS, I don't think you're extreme at all. The mainstream media just came out last week and finally admitted that the so-called moderate rebels, which didn't exist, but the so-called moderate rebels, that we spent $500 million
wow.
funding turned over all their weapons to Al-Qaeda. Well, why did they do that? Well, they were already part of Al-Qaeda, and everybody knew that in the Middle East, and the Russians have now called out the United States on this. What's more alarming to me, though, is on the southern border, we have a completely open border right now, and in the first quarter of 2014, out of, I think it was 475,000 people that were considered other than Mexican, that's the designation they give. I don't give that, that's the designation they give. But other than Mexican, 253,000 of them that were apprehended were other than Mexican out of that 475,000 total that were apprehended. So you're talking well over half, and those people were coming from countries like Libya and Chechnya, which is in Russia, obviously, and Syria, and all of these other Middle Eastern countries without having been vetted at all. And I think that the federal government saying that they don't know that there are members of ISIS crossing our southern border, that they're members of terrorist groups crossing our southern border into the United States, and that these people now that are coming in as Syrian refugees, that they don't know how to vet them and they can't tell if they're terrorists or not, is total bogus, because I thought they had facial recognition that they were trying to use on all of us. So if they can have and use that in the Middle East, they surely can use it here in America. So this whole thing seems very contrived, and I don't think that you're overboard saying that.
Well, this is, as I said, for me, it's like we have, let's put it, the last days of Rome. We have an emperor that is not a Roman and is a barbarian, and also is paid off as like a Manchurian candidate. He's opening the gates. He's opening the gates. Meanwhile, we've been told to shut up. Meanwhile, been trying to somehow be distracted, and more important, meanwhile, they want us to disarm us. They are so obsessed with we the people having any mean of defense for our property, for our life, for our republic also. I know you're very strong about the Second Amendment. Please tell me exactly what's going on now in Washington State with the latest laws that for me was, like for you, I'm sure, an act of tyranny planned by these globalists like Bloomberg, that they try to completely destroy every type of Second Amendment or make it more difficult in every state. What's your plan? What's going on? What type of ideas do you have there?
Well, Washington State is kind of an experiment state. They will come into Washington State to see if they can pass things, kind of like they do in California as well. Mm-hmm. And so we had a very liberal multimillionaire come into Washington State, and they did an initiative called I-594, which requires universal background checks on virtually all transfers of firearms. So let me give you a couple examples. If you're at the firing range and you're getting trained and you have your weapon and the trainer has their weapon, if you hand your weapon to the trainer, you would have to do a background check on the trainer if there's not proper certifications and all of this other stuff. So it's kind of ridiculous. The other one is if you are a veteran and you literally want to be part of a funeral ceremony, and you go to the VFW and you check out a weapon from the VFW to be part of that funeral ceremony, you'd have to have a background check done on you. It's just ridiculous stuff, and we're seeing this continue. And in Washington State, we have Article 1, Section 24 in our Constitution, and that says that the right to bear arms shall not be impaired. It's a little bit better language than infringed, I think. But either way, impaired means to diminish in any capacity. And that's exactly what these laws are doing. They're diminishing our right to bear arms. And so for me, this is the line in the sand. And that's why here over the summer, we had the incident up in Priest River, Idaho, where the Veterans Administration, a gentleman named John Arnold, he was a Navy vet, he had a stroke. A doctor ruled that he was incapable of handling his VA benefits. Not that he was mentally incompetent, but that he was incapable of handling his VA benefits. 8 months later, no doctor had ever followed up with him, and the VA sends him a letter and basically says he's lost his right to bear arms, literally to keep, possess, or sell arms or ammunition.
Wow.
And so the VA then called him up and said, we're coming to your house, and we called and put out a huge alert. It went nationwide. We had 760 shares on one Facebook post alone. We had about 100 people show up in his front yard and wait for the VA to show up. And when the VA did show up, you should have seen the look on that guy's face when there was 100 armed patriots standing in somebody's front yard waiting for this guy to arrive. The guy was very cordial.
Yes.
But the VA backed completely down, and the next business day, that same doctor who 8 months earlier had ruled that he was incompetent magically sent out a letter and said he's now competent. And the VA just last week officially restored Mr. Arnold's competency.
Wow.
And people that don't think this is real, we have a recording from the VSO in Idaho that said if he's worried about his guns being taken away, then he should hide them in the back shed and not wear them on his hip. That's not America, where you're guilty until proven innocent. And this guy had no due process. This was just a bureaucracy making a decision. And so for me, really, the right to bear arms and the freedom of conscience both are my lines in the sand. And we have got to stand against what this president wants to do, and that's disarm all Americans.
Yes, and you know what? I watched the video, by the way, on YouTube, and I will post it again on lovegunsfreedom.com. This is so powerful what you just said, because what they're doing here, they're testing the water. It's like a shark or even a coyote, okay? They try, first of all, when they're hungry, they try to give you a little bite on your butt to see how you react. And if you don't stand up, if you don't smash it on his face immediately, then he's going to come for your throat. That's the point. And, you know, they are so obsessed with everybody, but especially with veterans. That's why Obama, just a few weeks ago, and you know that is true, he wrote down an executive order that it was giving this sort of complete arbitrary power, as you said, no due process. Now, just because the doctor says that, in his opinion, medical opinion, you don't have that type of right without judge, trial, anything. They think that they can come and get your guns. And what they want the most, they want to get the guns at least of the 25 million or more American veterans, because they know that they're the first type of problem any regime will find out when you have millions of people like yourself that your oath of office, I mean your office, not only of office, of loyalty to this republic, it doesn't expire. And they know that. They know that you got the training, you got the heart, and you got the mindset. And that's what normally tyrants want. They want to disarm first the guardians, the watchmen. That's why it's so important that you stop, guys, that type of accident. There wasn't an accident. It was like a test. It was just a test. So I'm telling you, this is happening. It's 2015. I hope whoever's going to listen to this broadcasting in the future, they will realize that, first of all, I hope we were wrong. And more important, I hope we will do everything we can to win this battle. This is not a battle, this is a war for survival of freedom, because after we are gone, after America is gone, you have to watch these movies like 1984. That's nothing what's going to happen here and around the world. Matt Shea, before I let you go, I'm sure you're familiar with global government, you know, the New World Order. This is not a conspiracy anymore. Even on mainstream news, Fox News, they were talking about that a few months ago. Are you familiar with the word New World Order / global government?
Absolutely. In fact, I get asked sometimes, do you believe in that Agenda 21? That's conspiracy theory. And I'll say, are you talking about the 300-page, 30-chapter document entitled the UN Agenda for the 21st Century? Is that what you're saying doesn't exist?
Exactly.
And now they have Agenda 2030. People can't fight this. They can't fight it.
Listen, I wanted to bring you on the show for two reasons. First of all, I want to know all the listeners. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're in Hawaii, if you're in California, wherever you are. We need to help each other. Even people that, let's say, you know, people running from other state office, doesn't matter. We are here as Americans, and we need to stand close to each other. Even sometimes during the election times, we need good people everywhere. So if you want to support people like Matt Shea, even if you are, like example, in Oregon, doesn't matter. You can help him out. Matt, leave your website, first of all, if people can reach you out, maybe send you a donation or whatever they want to do.
Absolutely. If people want to get a hold of me, I'm on Facebook at Matt Shea, SHEA, and then also my website is VoteShea, SHEA.com. That's VoteShea.com. You can email me there. You can reach out to me there, and we have a network across this country. And I think one of the greatest lessons that I would like to leave is this: if we stand armed but peaceably against this tyranny, every single time we've done that, they've had to back down.
Yes.
And we're not doing it just for ourselves. We're doing it for our friends and neighbors, and I think that's the ultimate expression of love.
Perfect. And I want to dedicate a song for you that I wrote. The song is called, since you mentioned twice during our conversation, The Line in the Sand, and the song is called The Line in the Sand. Music and lyrics by myself. And I want to remind all my listeners out there, you know, I'm here as an act of love, okay? I could do many other things. I don't need to be on the air, and I couldn't care less, really. But this is, for me, an opportunity to reach out, try to wake up anybody out there listening. And more important, after we educate each other, we need to stand up together and stand the line together. Let's stand together, this line in the sand. If you want to support this show, it's very simple. All you got to do, you go to Zanna, ZANNA.us. You can download any of my songs for just 99 cents, and doing so, you allow this show to be free like it is right now. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna, and I want to say hi, God's willing, I'll talk to you next Sunday, and this is the line in the sand dedicated to all my brothers and sisters in freedom in Washington State. Thank you very much. Matt.
Thank you.
If you love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude than the animated contest of freedom, go from us in peace. We ask not your counsels or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains sit lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you were our countrymen. The line in the sand, you know the time is coming. The line in the sand, are you going to watch while we're fighting? The line in the sand, just tell me now where you're going to stand. How much more you're gonna take it? How much more you're gonna fake it? Now you decide what you'll do when they come. They'll come for you. Seconds before midnight.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman,
I'm not afraid.
and a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth,
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Gianluca Zanna
I'm not afraid.
and his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Gianluca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.